Hello, and welcome to Outnumbered the Podcast. I'm Audrey.
And I'm Bonnie. We are experienced moms to a combined total of 19 children.
In our weekly episodes, we explore relatable topics using our perspectives of humor and chaos.
Tune in for advice and encouragement to gain more joy in your parenting journey. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Outnumbered. Today we have a really exciting episode because we have a guest. Say hi to Kelsey. Hi, Kelsey.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. So Kelsey and I are life coach buddies. We have met in person as well, and we're bringing her on to tell you guys or give you guys all of her expertise about homeschooling and teaching, and she has some really fun stuff in store. So yeah, welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share with your audience and chat with both of you. So it'll be a good time.
Okay. Kelsey, first of all, we want you to start by giving us an intro to yourself, and then you and your business, your family. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Kelsey Sorenson. I am a wife of 11 years. I have 3 children. I have an almost 9-year-old who'll be 9 this month, and a 6-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy. To me, that means we're outnumbered because we've got 3 kids to 2 parents. But compared to you two and maybe some of your listeners, you might think, oh, that's cute. But,
3 was the hardest for us.
It is hard. Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I mean, I love my kiddos, and we are homeschooling. We've done it since the beginning with my oldest, who's now a 3rd grader. And then I also own my company, which is called Wife Teacher Mommy. And I started that when he was about 7 months old, end of 2014. And we've done resources for teachers. I was a teacher by trade, and then I was subbing when he was a baby. And then I just kind of dabbled into that. And now it's kind of like my full-time thing. So, and we've added coaching and events, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I'm just really happy to be here.
Yes, I have loved learning about your business. It is so fascinating to me how businesses start and then how they evolve. So you started out with just resources, right? Online resources for teachers.
Yeah. And I actually started because, like I mentioned, I was substitute teaching because I had my teaching degree, but I wanted, more flexibility than if I were working full time in a classroom once I had my baby. So I was subbing, and then I would just do it when I had a babysitter, which was usually my sister-in-law, who was very nice to do that. Funny thing, now she works for me doing this. So it's full circle. But I created sub plans so that when teachers would need to call in sick, they would have those, because I actually needed to have something to bring with me, because oftentimes teachers wouldn't have enough that would even last me a whole day. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make stuff. I can bring it. Then maybe I can help the teachers have some plans that are more thorough, that'll last the whole day or likely even longer. So it started with that and selling those on a site called Teachers Pay Teachers. I don't know if you two have heard of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of homeschool moms use it too. And it's kind of like Etsy for teachers, like digital downloads. So yeah, that's how it started back in 2014. And now we do a lot more. We support homeschool parents too. It started with just teachers, but especially with COVID, we really kind of pivoted into homeschooling. I was even kind of I'm homeschooling now. How do we pivot to homeschooling? And then COVID happened. I'm like, oh, well, there you go. There's my pivot.
So I was actually going to ask you about this, and when it comes to COVID. So, as those of us who homeschooled before COVID, I saw a lot of stuff going on online where people were like, "Oh my gosh, now I know why I never wanted to homeschool. This is terrible." But it also seems like more people have continued homeschooling afterwards. Do you think that's the case? Have you seen the same thing with your finger on the pulse of the teaching and homeschooling communities?
Oh, absolutely. And there are a lot of parents who are like, oh, they couldn't wait to send their kids back. Mm-hmm. But I think for some parents, it can be a difficult decision to choose to homeschool. I know it was for me too. Mm-hmm. Should I do it? What are people going to think? Am I going to do a good enough job? I feel like a lot of people second guess it. And so then maybe those who were debating it and decided to send them to school, but then they did get that taste of actually trying it out. It kind of helped their confidence. Oh, this actually is something we could do. I actually like my kids being home. So I think those who were already on the fence about it, it helped them. And then I think some others might have seen the benefits of it. For us, we love we can sleep in if we want to, or we can go travel somewhere and still bring school, and I bring work or whatever with us, but then we can do things. So I think some people realize they like that flexibility. So there are definitely more homeschoolers than there were before And I think there's also just been more of an understanding. Like I've noticed, I feel like before COVID, when I said it was homeschooling, people were like, oh, really? That's interesting. And now there's like more of an understanding in the general public of, oh, that's really cool or whatever, So I feel like it's more normal. So it might be even easier for people to make that decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool. I remember, Bonnie, you and I had a conversation at the beginning of the quarantine when we were hearing from all these parents, like how much that they were struggling with homeschooling. And I think that's when we started our school series on the podcast, is we have a whole series about homeschooling and how to help kids in different areas, and then just kind of homeschooling in general and different things we do. But Bonnie, I remember you and I had a conversation about like our deepest hope for the whole, what would come out of the whole everybody homeschooling thing that happened during quarantine, was that families would bond and get closer and enjoy spending time together. That was, I remember us having that conversation.
Yeah.
And so then we started this, like we wanted to support that, people being together and homeschooling their families. And so it looks like, Kelsey, that you really are a supportive of the homeschool community too. So how does having the background, like the substitute teaching and, making supplies for teachers, how does that support you and help you as a homeschool mom?
I feel like for me, I already had the confidence to teach my children. Like I didn't have that like, oh, there's no way I can do it. I'm like, I could definitely do it. I was able to teach.
It's only
like,
3 kids. It's not 20.
So yeah. And so it did help with that. And I feel like I also had a lot of creative ideas from the classroom that I was able to incorporate into homeschool, which was a lot of fun. I do feel like, and I've noticed this from other teachers who go to homeschool, there is a little bit of a like, oh, but wait, like I feel like this should be longer than it's taking or whatever. So there is a little bit of mindset work to do around it. Like it doesn't need to look like public school. So for me, it's kind of like trying to remember that it doesn't have to look like that, especially now that I think I've talked to Bonnie about this a few times. So my husband helps a lot with homeschooling, and sometimes he does things differently than I would. And it's just like, being like, it's okay. It's like our family, we're figuring this out together, and it doesn't have to look just like it would in public school. So that's been kind of like the benefit is like, oh, I can totally teach. I have all these creative ideas and I know what they're supposed to be learning, like I have kind of in quotes, but I do feel like that's helpful. But then there's also the like, oh, I need to also remember homeschool is a different thing too.
Okay, Kelsey. So let's go back to when you first started homeschooling. Tell me, you said that you did have the confidence there, but did you struggle when you first started homeschooling?
So my biggest problem with the decision was actually I was really worried what people were going to think of the decision to homeschool, which is funny because like I am a trained teacher. So it's like, but even like telling like I was worried about telling my dad and my mom that, oh, we're gonna homeschool them. I also thought people that maybe my kids would be left out from like the other kids in the neighborhood who were going to the same school, and like would they still bond with those kids? Would they still make friends? Like those are the things I was more worried about with making that decision, which now I've obviously overcome those and realized, oh, they still play with the neighborhood kids just fine. And they're making friends in lots of other ways. So it was totally fine. But that was a big thing for me. And then with actually teaching, I don't feel like that part, the actually teaching part was a problem at all. That was what I was really excited about. It was definitely like balancing that teaching, parenting, and doing my business. That was the like learning curve for sure.
Oh yeah, we can both really identify with that as well. I love that. So is there any main thing that you wish you could go back and tell a younger you about this homeschooling phase that may have given you more peace?
Well, one that it doesn't matter what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if I could tell that self, like, hey, don't worry, in just a few months, everybody's going to be doing this, and you're going to be glad that you've already started it, because it was the school year 2019 to 2020 school year that we started. So it was pre-pandemic, but very pre-pandemic, right? So, just wait for what's coming. I mean, I think that would be really interesting to tell me, but overall, just like you don't need to worry about what other people think. Just worry about what's best for your family. I hadn't learned the coaching tools yet, so I was very much in that people pleasing, that what are people going to think of me mode at that point. It was in 2020 that I found coaching and was able to be like, oh yeah, no, it really doesn't matter what they think. Like, so that was a big thing for me. And then also just that you're going to find your groove. It doesn't have to, the other big thing I already said is it doesn't have to look like public school. Like you got to figure out what it looks like for you and your family. And it doesn't even have to look like other people who homeschool. Like we all find our own way.
Yes, that is so true. And the amount of time that my kids can and do spend outside in nature and exploring and doing their own thing, learning their own way is every time I see them come in and their faces are all, refreshed and glowing and excited and they're all, telling me about the latest, who knows what game that they created. I'm like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Because if they were in public school right now, they would be sitting in a chair at a desk and they wouldn't be home for another 4 hours, and then they'd have a bunch of homework probably at their ages and that kind of thing. So I definitely would have some things to say to a younger me too.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Yeah. Yeah. Just basically, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think I would have just given myself a hug and just patted her on the back for a long time. It's going to be so much better than you anticipate and also so much harder. So just go along for the ride,
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so Kelsey, we want you to tell us about you mentioned life coaching, and we want you to tell us and our audience about the membership program that you have.
Yeah, so we have a membership. It's called Wife Teacher Mommy Club, and I started that in September of 2021 as it was kind of part of our like with the pandemic there was a pivot where we started helping parents too and like digital resources that could be done on the computer or whatever. And then we're like, let's just do a membership so people don't have to buy just everything one off. They can just have a membership and they can like access the resources so they can like especially for homeschoolers, the great thing, and this is the thing for both teachers and homeschoolers, because for teachers, like the kids with COVID, there were these bigger educational gaps than before because some kids were supported at home, others were less supported at home. So there are these big gaps. And then for homeschool moms, it's like you're teaching, like, for example, I have a preschooler, a first grader, and a third grader. And like, you two have even more, so it's like, all the moms, if you have more than one child, you're teaching more than one grade level. So then it's like you can grab, like, I want these fixing sentences worksheets. I want them for fifth grade. I want them for second grade. And you can like grab them for any of your kids. So that's what we did as far as the resources. That was the membership. But then with the membership, we're also like, we're going to do this big event. And it was really daunting. I'm like, well, what are we going to do? So like send out a survey to our members. I'm like, what is your biggest struggle? What do you need right now? And then what we've realized is that these parents and these teachers, they were so burned out. And I was now seeing the world through this new lens of like coaching and understanding these tools, understanding that it doesn't matter as much what people think about me, or that like I can like have more confidence in myself, just all these different tools, and how like, thoughts create feelings, and our actions and results, all of that. But they had no clue. So I'm like, okay, there's like a disconnect. I want to like incorporate that into the event, but also I feel like they need this support ongoing. So I hired a life coach to come into the membership and do some coaching in there. And then I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just hire a coach. I don't have time to become a coach. Like, it's gonna be like where I just hire coaches to come in and do it. That was the plan at the time. But then, as we kept doing it, I was like, oh, I think one day I want to do it. I want to do it one day. And then Bonnie and I both attended this event called Life Coach Live. I attended virtually, but it was with Brooke Castillo, who owns the Life Coach School. And I was basically convinced, like it felt like inspiration or like, revelation or whatever, that I am supposed to do it right now. So I signed up and I certified through the Life Coach School on February 6th of this year. So that's kind of our journey. So now we're doing the event and everything again. Bonnie's actually speaking at the event, which is so fun.
Yes, yes. I love that you offer coaching now. Side note, Kelsey was like the fastest life coach certifier I knew. And so she inspired me to get it done really quickly too, because it's all online, all self-paced now. So she's smart and really fast. But here's the thing that I'm seeing is there's a lot of these professional organizations now that are offering a life coach aspect. And I think it's so powerful for people to be able to learn how to manage their mind and then go out and get the nuts and bolts tips of whatever their job is, being a teacher or a homeschool parent or whatever. So how are you seeing coaching benefit these teachers and these high school homeschool parents?
Well, so for the teachers and the homeschool parents, and I'll speak a little bit more to the homeschool parents since I think that's probably more of your audience.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Um, so I feel like it's really helping. I just did a workshop recently specifically for the homeschool moms about self-care, because I feel like a lot of these homeschool moms, and I think all three of us are going to relate to this too, like we put so much effort and time and our energy into everybody else around us, like our children or our spouse or those in our community or whatever, and we don't take as much time for ourselves. So like that workshop where we talked about self-care and how we can really take care of ourselves, and that even taking time for coaching and whatnot is self-care. I think it really just makes a difference for them, because like then they learn how they can do that. So that was one workshop we did recently. But in general, like the coaching, it helps them to bring awareness of what's going on in their lives. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I could talk a lot about coaching, but I was talking to Bonnie about this, like explaining coaching to somebody who doesn't know what coaching is. It's like, it's just this like experience that I feel like you can hardly even describe. It's like you get to really peek in and see what's going on in your life,
Yeah.
like the way your thoughts are driving your actions, feelings, and results in just a way that is really mind
Yeah,
blowing.
and I would share here too that motherhood and homeschooling is particularly challenging sometimes because you try to see your results through the behavior of other people, right? You think, well, I'm a good mom
Mm-hmm.
if my kids do this. I'm a good homeschool parent if my kids are doing this. And that's not how life works. Like kids just do what they're going to do. And so if we're constantly getting our
Mm-hmm.
value out of how our kids are behaving or how they're performing in their schoolwork, we're going to be setting ourselves up to be pretty miserable. And so I think that's one place that coaching has come in super helpful for me as well. So I love that. That's awesome.
Okay, so you mentioned a conference, and we want to know more about this. As homeschoolers, things like getting together with other homeschool families is kind of a big thing. So tell us more about Educate and Rejuvenate. Tell us about your conference.
Yeah, so this will be our second summer doing the big main event, which is going to be a lot of fun. So what we do is we get a couple keynotes who are like really big names you probably heard of. We're really excited. We have Christina Kuzmich. Have you heard of her before? She is incredible. She's the author of Hold On But Don't Hold Still. She
She's
has almost 3
hilarious.
million Facebook followers. She's so funny. She does a tour called Hope and Humor. I saw her in person and she's just so good. I've met her twice when at her shows, like had her sign my books and take a
That's
picture.
awesome.
Like she's just so humble and sweet and down to earth. But then we also have um tons of amazing speakers, and we have a teacher track and a parent track, and Bonnie is one of our teachers on the
Yeah.
parent track. We're so excited about that. So you can like just stick to the parent one if you want, or you can like venture over to some of the teacher one, or if you're both, like, I mean, you're not like limited to one, you can like pick and choose like from either one. Even looking over the teacher titles, I'm like, oh, a lot of these homeschoolers could benefit from too, especially if you're homeschooling and not just like parent, like, you know, parent who sends their kids to school. But if you homeschool, like you're really going to find this conference very beneficial, because there's a lot of teaching skills, but then there's also like burnout. I'm going to be doing some coaching there. We have workouts that we start the morning with. So it really is just like kind of a full on, all encompassing event. There's 2 days of the main event, but then you have 10 days to watch the pre-recorded sessions. So
Okay, so 2 days of all these awesome events, and it's all virtual, right? So you
yeah.
get access to it and you can watch it for 10 days. That's so amazing. So tell me this. If I'm a homeschool parent coming to Educate and Rejuvenate, what should I come prepared to learn about or to take away?
So I feel like you can kind of set your goal for what you want to come in for. For sure, it's like tackling burnout, mindset strategies, setting your intention for the new school year, a lot of that. But then also you can come in and be like, I want to learn, like, I wouldn't try to do too much because then you might overwhelm yourself, but like, I want to learn some skills for teaching writing or for math or whatever. And you could come in and you could find a session that has to do with that, or even like social emotional learning for kids. We have several of those. If it's like, there's something new I want to bring into my homeschool, like you could kind of pick which sessions are going to help you accomplish that. And on the sales page, if you click on each person's picture, you can see what their session is.
So
Anyways,
where do people go to find, like, to be able to look at the teachers and what they're teaching?
so that will be on the sales page for the event, which you two have a special link for that. So I'll let you
Yes,
put that in the
we
show
will include
notes.
our link in the show
Okay,
notes so you guys can go
cool.
check it out. Remind us how much it is, Kelsey.
So it's $19, which is a lot less than most any other teacher or homeschooling conference like
Literally
this
any
that
other
I know of.
conference. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Or even just to see one of these keynotes, like to see Christina, you'd pay up to $75. And
That's a
then you
great
get all
value.
of these
Yeah.
other speakers and the workouts, and there's life coaching, which is very valuable. A great way to see what coaching is, because we'll be doing that at the event as well.
That is a great value. Yeah, for homeschoolers. That's an amazing value. You know how homeschoolers, we like to save money where we can.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
right. Oh, and I love that you're including humor because like you say, it's just a hard job. Parenting is a hard job, period. And if you're going to be teaching your children at the same time, it is going to be extra difficult. It's going to be extra rewarding as well, but it's going to be extra difficult as well. All right, so let's go back to homeschooling just a little bit. And I want to ask you what tips and encouragement you would give to someone who is either brand new to homeschooling or maybe considering it and just feeling like really overwhelmed.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much that goes into homeschooling that a lot of us try when we start homeschooling. We're like, okay, I need to do all the things now. I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this and that. And I need to be doing all of it perfectly. And I think the thing is really just focusing on what's most important, which is like, that bonding experience with your kids, teaching them like math, language arts, or whatever it is. And that you can always like change or improve things. Like don't get too hung up on which curriculum you're using because you can always change that. Or like, oh, I could have like taught this better. Like again, if you're going to be homeschooling and you have years of doing it, you have time to figure out the ways you like to do things and you'll get in a rhythm and you'll get there. But for now, just focus on, that time with your kids, teaching them. And then each day you can just kind of be like, okay, what went well today? What do I want to improve? And just a little bit at a time, you can improve and get better. Don't like go on Pinterest and feel like I need to do absolutely everything here right now. Or that is when you're going to get overwhelmed. So just kind of believe in yourself, have that self-confidence that even if like you don't have like something external, some external result to connect to it yet because you're just starting, that's okay. You can believe in yourself and your abilities to do it and know that you're going to figure it out.
Oh, I love that. So, so helpful. Okay, so Kelsey, last question. The homeschool parents that have been going for a while, do you see different issues for them? We talked about those that are getting started or considering it. What about those of us that are veterans and maybe losing steam?
Yeah, because I think a lot of times we tend to beat ourselves up when things aren't going because we're like, oh, I figured this out. Like, I should know this by now. I think we like should on ourselves a lot more. We're like, or my kids like should be to this level or we should be doing this. And like, we can tend to be like judgmental of ourselves because we're like, well, I'm a veteran homeschooler. And now
I should know
things that,
this, yeah.
and I think also like adapting as things change because like you might get set into a routine and like, oh, this is working really well, but then things change with your family, like your kids grow or whatever. And sometimes you need to adapt. Like sometimes you need to be a bit more flexible than others. And sometimes your schedule is going to change. And sometimes you might have less time for school in a season than you did during other seasons. And I think it's just recognizing the season that you're in with homeschooling and, just accepting it and knowing where you're, that, it is a season. It will change again, whether it's like, oh, it's smooth sailing right now or it's not. It's always a season and it's going to change. So I think it's just continuing to roll with those punches as they come and knowing that as long as you are still like developing that relationship with your kids and teaching them what they need to know to be able to like, go to college or do what it is they need to do in their future and that they're going to be just fine. They're going to find their way. So that's what I would have to say to veteran homeschoolers.
Yeah, there is so much power in just that confidence, right? That it's all going to be okay. And one of the reasons that we chose to homeschool is because we have more freedom to do what feels right for us and for our kids. And that it won't be the same today as what they need in 6 months or in a year or in 2 years. We just get to kind of go with the flow, which is really, really powerful. So I am so glad that you came on. We're both so glad that you're here. Give us one last chance to sign up for your conference. Where do we go?
Yes. Well, that link, you'll put that in the show notes, right?
Yep.
So they get your special link. So make sure to use their link if you heard about it on this podcast. But yeah, it's going to be a great time. We'd love to see you there. And then I also have a podcast called Wife Teacher Mommy, the podcast. So
awesome.
You can find me over there too.
Yeah. And then remind us where you are. Is it wifeteachermommy.com?
Yeah.
People want to come see your resources. Awesome. Because she has so much great stuff there. If you're a homeschool parent or a teacher, or someone who is, please send them over there. So thanks so much for coming on the show, Kelsey. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening, friends. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to our email and never miss another episode.
Show us some love by leaving a review on iTunes or sharing the podcast with a friend. Thanks for all your support. We'll talk to you next week.